Up tonight on race day, a wild one at the Rock as Ward whips to a popular first win. One of the principals of the battle of control for IndyCar racing will join us live. And the World of Outlaws, crowning only their fourth different champion in 18 years. It's race day, Sunday, October the 22nd, 1995. Good evening. Welcome to Race Day. I'm Rick Benjamin. Great to have you with us tonight. More titles decided this weekend in serious politics with IndyCar racing. We also have boats and sprint cars and a lot more. But we begin tonight with the Winston Cup. When they lined up for the AC Delco 400 at Rockingham today, most everyone had at least one eye on the title battle. Jeff Gordon going from fourth with a 205-point lead. Dale Earnhardt back in 20th with a great record at Rockingham. But a lot of people thought we could see a surprise today. What with Hut Strickland on the pole, first time ever. And in the first dozen laps, Ward Burton was strong too, taking Bill Davis's MBNA Pontiac into the top spot, getting around Strickland here on the low side. Unfortunately, Hut's day wasn't very long. Here, he goes around with some help from Michael Waltrip and whacks the wall. Jeff Gordon hoping to take a giant step toward the Winston Cup today. Gordon led a couple of dozen laps early, but had trouble with the tire, getting caught in the pits too. Especially after this huge lap 88 wreck, Bobby Hamilton, Dale Jarrett, and others caught up here. It put the 24 car a couple of laps down. Gordon never able to recover. For a time, it looked like Rick Mast might be a first-time winner on this day. Then, lap 213, you'd have thought we were watching the Gold Cup hydroplanes. Michael Waltrip and Shane Hall and Dick Brooks' Pontiac go for a swim on the backstretch. Mast stayed strong, but had motor trouble after a couple of dozen more laps, ending the Virginian's bid. On track, Dale Earnhardt trying to claim the Mr. October nickname. Dale leading with 120 to go, but what about Ward Burton? Remember him? He got it cranked up just past the 300 lap mark and blew by Earnhardt for the lead down in turn 3. Soon after, the leaders head pitward, setting up another flap over lug nuts. A NASCAR inspector apparently thought the Childress crew hadn't put all 5 lug nuts on one wheel. So they brought Earnhardt back in, under green for a penalty, cost him a lap. But the Childress crew hauled out a camera, took a picture of the wheel, proved that all 5 lug nuts were there. So NASCAR threw a late caution. They gave Earnhardt his lap back, just like your Saturday night short track, realigning the field under caution and touching off a huge controversy. Fortunately, it didn't matter that Ward Burton lost a good portion of his lead. When they dropped the green again with 8 to go, Burton unstoppable, claiming his first Winston Cup win in just his 7th start in Bill Davis's car.
Man, this car's been running great, and it's run great all year since I got in it, and I'm just tickled to be a part of the team, and I'd like to thank all the guys with Chevrolet and MBA for putting me in this car.
Here's the way they came across the line. Rusty Wallace, his 2nd spot. Martin and Labonte, Jeff Burton in 5th, Sterling Marlin Earnhardt in 7th spot. With all the turmoil in the Bill Davis organization, Ward the 4th driver in that car this year. Popular win for him and that team at Rockingham today, and much more on the Winston Cup round coming up in minutes here on Race Day. The 95 sprint car season coming to a close this week too. The World of Outlaws with their traditional season finale in Texas. The 22nd annual Winter Nationals at the Devil's Bowl. Race Day's Matt Yoakum tells us about a first-time champion in the series long owned by Steve Kinzer.
Friday night belonged to the veterans. Sammy Swindell jumped out to a big lead, then his motor went south after only 9 laps. That handed the point over to Andy Hillenberg in the Blue Deuce. Hillenberg had his hands full of Steve Kinzer. They swapped the lead back and forth before Kinzer overpowered the Deuce and led Hillenberg to the checkers. Steve's cousin Mark Kinzer finished 3rd. Saturday night, Dave Blaney clinched his first ever Outlaw title just by starting the feature, but it was the wily veteran Kinzer again in the spotlight. He and Gary Wright were locked in a battle by halfway. Wright and Kinzer passed the lead back and forth before Wright finally gained control with 4 laps to go. Once out front, Wright dashed to his 2nd Winter Nationals crown. The 11th car of Kinzer held on for 2nd. Point leader Dave Blaney was never in contention, but wrapped up the championship with a 12th place finish. Jack Haudenschild was 2nd, 142 points back, with Steve Kinzer, who ran only 2/3 of the race, is 9th. Reporting for Race Day, I'm Matt Yoakum.
All right, thanks, Matt. Congratulations to Gary Wright and to Dave Blaney. All of us offering our congrats to the Buckeye Bullet tonight. Only the 4th World of Outlaws driver ever in the 18-year history of the series to claim a championship. Kinzer and Sammy Swindell and Bobby Davis Jr., the other 3 winners. More to come tonight. We'll talk live with CART Chairman and CEO Andrew Craig. He is here to talk about the latest on the battle for control of IndyCar racing. Race Day is back with you in just a moment.
Race Day is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. By Jiffy Lube. If it doesn't say Jiffy Lube, it just isn't Jiffy Lube. By Speed Stick by Menon. Like you, it never quits.
Welcome back to Race Day. The war of words over the future of IndyCar racing may be hotter than ever tonight. It appears that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the new Indy Racing League are still on a collision course with the CART Indy cars. The crux of the debate seems to be the Speedway's new qualifying rules that lock in 25 of the 33 spots in the 500 for regular IRL teams. CART calls that a lockout, but they've been busy too. CART modifying its chassis rules for next year, and they've scheduled several events against key IRL dates for '96. Well, now it appears CART is again strongly considering boycotting the Indy 500, perhaps staging an alternative 500-mile event. Joining us live to comment tonight, IndyCar Chairman and CEO Andrew Craig. Welcome to Race Day. Good to have you here.
Thanks.
Where do things stand right now with all this talk of a boycott and an alternative event?
Well, we don't see it as a boycott at all. We've been locked out of the Indy 500, and frankly, we have to offer our teams and our drivers an alternative place to race.
Where would that be?
Well, we haven't decided there yet. We obviously have some very clear plans. We're not going to announce anything until we have a complete plan with TV, with all the elements in place. Then we'll announce the whole program.
And the issues between CART and the IRL seem to boil down to scheduling. You've scheduled a race right before and after Phoenix and against New Hampshire. The chassis specs changes late, and most of all, the 500 qualifying procedures. Is there room to negotiate all these points, or is this over as far as CART is concerned?
Well, certainly from our perspective, we remain very open to the idea of any negotiated settlement. We think it's in the best interest of the sport that we do come back together and have one series. But what we're not going to do is just roll over and die. We've created something here over the last 15 years that's strong, it's successful, it's effective. We're not going to give all that up.
And the whole point of this is the qualifying procedure. That's really what's at issue for the 500.
That's what it really comes down to. We think it's wholly inappropriate that the Indy 500 should have a qualifying system where potentially the slow cars are on the grid and the fast cars are in the garage. That's crazy to us.
If you look at some other series, NASCAR has its winner's circle and its provisional starting spot. CART has its franchise program. Why would the IRL's guaranteed starting spot plan be any different from that, in your view?
Well, first of all, if the franchise system at CART does not in any way guarantee anybody a place, it's a franchise system that ensures people involved in the sport have a say in how the sport is run. But when it comes to competition on the track, whether you've got a franchise or not, it doesn't make the slightest difference. Our champion this year, Jacques Villeneuve with Barry Green's team, Barry's not a franchise holder.
Now, in terms of the Indy 500, most observers, I think, have speculated this will all come down to sponsors, ultimately, that the big corporations like Marlboro, Miller Beer will determine who races where that day. Is that really what's going to happen, do you think?
Well, sponsors are very important, obviously. And what I can tell you is that most sponsors are saying to their teams that they will do what the teams feel is right for the sport. I mean, certainly, I'm not aware of any large movement by the sponsors to say, no, we're not going to stick with our teams. They're saying we'll be guided, and we'll leave it to the team's judgment as to where they should go and race.
Friday, the IRL said they had invited 40 teams to run in January at Disney World, and they said there were no more talks between your side and the IRL side. What needs to happen next? Are you going to call Tony George this week and say, hey, let's get together again, or is that not going to happen?
Well, if they don't want to talk, that's up to them. We don't think that's a particularly sensible way to proceed. We're certainly prepared to talk to anybody, providing it's a sensible discussion between equals. What we're not prepared to tolerate is the sort of master and servant relationship which has so characterized the relationship with the Speedway over the years.
Now, you've instituted some things in the last few days, an 800 number for fan comment. Why don't you tell us about that? Why that move?
Well, we felt it was important to offer the fans as much information as possible, as early as possible about the event. We're not ready to announce, so therefore the sensible thing seemed to be was to get their names and addresses, so as soon as we have some information, we can be in touch with them.
All right, so there is an 800 number, and I think there it is on the screen, the IndyCar hotline, 575-7577. And they won't get you directly, but they'll be able to leave a recorded comment, I take it?
That's absolutely right.
All right, well, thanks for being with us. Andrew Craig, the chairman and CEO of CART, and we wish you well with the new season.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And there is other news to talk about, certainly, this week on Race Day. Out west, the NARC Sprint Cars have crowned their 1995 Series champion. NARC already had Brent Kading with 7 Series titles going into the finale. This year, Kading had a slim 23-point cushion over rival Paul McMahon. Well, Kading started 6th. We have some highlights to show you here. Giving chase to Jason Stadler, who led off the pole. McMahon in tow, and Kading caught the leader now with just 2 to go. There's Kading on the outside, making his move for the lead down in turn 1. McMahon came along on the outside as well, but that was as close to first as McMahon could get. Kading ran first to the checkers and his 8th NARC championship. McMahon finishes 2nd in the race in the final sprint car standings. Paul's brother Bobby grabs 3rd. Kevin Pilot and Greg DeCaires rounding out the top 5 in the NARC series. And there is more to come on race day tonight when we continue back to Rockingham for a lot more on today's Wild Winston Cup event and the off-track controversies and on-track action. NASCAR's All-Pro Warriors hamming it up in Virginia last night. We'll show you a meaty win for Mike Cope next. Welcome back on race day. So Ward Burton breaks through, grabbing his first Winston Cup win, and Dale Earnhardt makes the championship chase a good bit tighter with 2 races to go. Race day's Ralph Shaheen watched today's Rockingham run. Ralph, plenty of off-track controversy in that event today.
Boy, there sure was, Rick. You know, college basketball and pro hockey use instant replay to fix scoring errors. Today, NASCAR used the yellow flag, and it caused quite a debate. Things got crazy when the Goodwrench crew proved a NASCAR inspector wrong after Earnhardt was penalized. Officials threw a caution to get Earnhardt his lap back, and pandemonium broke out. While it all seemed to work out, it affected all the contenders.
NASCAR tried to rectify it by throwing a caution, putting us back in the lead lap. And what they should have done at that point is let everybody pit in sequence and never have to come out of the pits would have been the way they should have lined up.
And the reason for the caution, and it was a different day, but I'm not saying I disagree with anything. I just never seen it before. But NASCAR did what they thought was right, and it's real hard to officiate these races. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of ego.
You know, we feel that we still lost 25 points in the thing. You know, we were running 4th or 5th, and Jeff, you know, we're racing them for the championship, and they were like 24th or so at that time. And not to bring it back to those numbers, but he gained on the caution.
TNN Speed Stick points update sees Earnhardt gaining more ground on Gordon, but was it enough to make a difference?
That's why we're learning how to run for a championship, and you know, I hope these next 2 races kind of go our way instead of the way the last 2 have gone.
Rusty Wallace and the Penske South team finished 2nd today, but struggled again on pit road. Wallace has been very vocal about new rules limiting teams to 2 air wrenches. Today, frustration over slow stops caused words to be exchanged between team members, and All-Pro tire man Billy Wilburn went to the team truck. Wilburn did return, however, before the next round of stops and completed his duties. Rick, with the present departures from that team and this latest public tiff, a big question mark now hangs over that team this week. And I gotta believe there's gonna be a team meeting to straighten this all out.
Yeah, you certainly think so. They have a lot to talk about and a lot to get settled before the new season. They're not in the hunt for the title, but the Rusty Wallace team certainly wants to be next year. So we'll be watching this one as it plays through the next several weeks. All right, thanks, Ralph Shaheen. We'll check back in with you a little bit later on. Now, this morning we showed you how Nashville was won last week. Jeff Purvis taking that NASCAR All-Pro event. Last night in Langley, Virginia, the Slim Jim Series regulars made up a rain date. Plenty of sparks flying in this Grease Lightning 250, courtesy of rookie Jimmy Britz in the 92 car here. Mike Cope in the Penrose 44 making a big move from the back of the pack down low, getting by point leader Hal Goodson on his way to the front. And more trouble for Britz. Tough to make a left turn when you've got the right front hanging off the car like that. But that's a big break for Cope. Put him right behind race leader Toby Porter there in the 80 car. And on the restart, Cope breaks the middle there in the 3-wide burst in turn 1 with a dozen laps left. Not the last drama, though. Cope got caught up in lap traffic on his way to the white flag. But the defending series champ held it together in the final lap to take the victory. Porter holds on for 2nd. Rick Crawford comes home 3rd. Then Goodson in 4th spot and Ron Barfield 5th. Freddie Query, Steve Allison 9th. Randy Gentry, your top 10. Barfield and Cope only separated by a dozen points, trailing Goodson by a good margin. 2 races to go for the All-Pro stars. NASCAR's modified tour teams are in the midst of a great point battle, too. Only 35 markers separating leader Tony Hirschman and Mike Iwanitzko heading into the next to last race of the year up in Thompson, Connecticut. And from the drop of the green flag last Sunday night, Hirschman adopted the I'm not cruising for points approach. We have some highlights to show you here. He grabbed the lead going off down into turn 1. While behind him, the first of 7 yellows would come out. Here are the cars taking the green. That's Hirschman on the outside pole in the 3 car. And he goes right to the top, but there's trouble early. Satch Worley slaps the wall, and there's more carnage. Ted Christopher, Tommy Crevegno coming together, too, as everybody gets sorted out. Now, the turn 2 Fandango, that's Crevegno and Christopher involved with several other cars. Crevegno was able to continue on at Thompson. Back up front. The darkness has fallen. Hirschman's fast pace uses up his tires. Charlie Pastriak on the inside of the 5 car sweeps by and leads until pit stops. Later, any chances of Pastriak winning end in this turn 2 wall slapper. Eddie Flemke and Mike Stefanik battle here after the yellow flag. Stefanik won the tussle with the pass, 31 laps from the end. Stefanik cruises to his 6th Tour victory of the year, make that his 5th, moving him into 2nd on the all-time Modified Tour win list with 32. One of title contenders Steve Park and Hirschman, well, they ended up 4th and 5th at Thompson last week. The top 5 keeps Hirschman on top in the standings, while Park climbs into second. And again, 1 race to go in the Modified Tour battle. They'll run at Thompson again next Sunday. The NASCAR Modifieds will let you know whether it's Hirschman or Park picking up their first NASCAR Featherlight Modified Tour title on the PM edition of Race Day in 1 week. Most race series crown their champions in cooler weather, but not the unlimited hydroplanes. They do it in style in Hawaii. And last Sunday, the big boats hit the waters of Pearl Harbor for the season's 10th and final race. The Miss Budweiser crew and driver Chip Hanauer had to rally from a 500-point deficit to have a chance at the title. A win in the deciding final heat would be the key. Hanauer pushed Big Red into the lead, while his arch rival Mark Tate in the Smokin' Joe's boat struggled with engine problems. Miss Bud led wire to wire to seal a record 5th straight title for owner Bernie Little. Hanauer picked up the $150,000 win. Miss Bud wins the owner's crown the 16th time since 1969. Tate had already clinched the driving title. He finished second in the Smokin' Joe's. Congratulations to Bernie Little and the Miss Bud team. Also, Mark Tate and the Smokin' Joe's team, and already members of our staff are fighting over who gets to cover that finale in Hawaii next year. When we come back, a lot more from the SCCA Nationals, the runoffs, some two-wheel titles decided too. And as we go to break, here's the week's motorsports lineup on television, so you can plan your non-World Series viewing this week. Keep it right here. Race Day is back in a moment. Welcome back. This morning we showed you 14 of the 25 SCCA National Road Race champions crowned at the runoffs a few days ago at Mid-Ohio. We brought Ralph Shaheen back with his road racing hat on now to check out the other winners. Ralph, a lot of other great action as well.
There sure was, Rick. You know, the runoffs are a week-long extravaganza with the actual racing taking place over 3 very intense days. Tonight our action starts with the showroom stock cars. Now traditionally this is a hotbed of controversy, and this year was no different. An SSGT Peter Tonelli claimed to win on the track, only to lose it in the tech shed. Grant Carter took top honors with his Chevy Camaro. Here are the showroom stock champions like Carter. David Daugherty took the SSB title after Jody Lift ran afoul of the inspectors. Randy Popes claimed the SSA title to go with the second in the SSB, while Eric Heuschel claimed a championship in his first year of national racing. The sports and spec racers are always crowd pleasers. In the rain, Alex Smith claimed the C Sports Racer title by a huge 35-second margin. Here are the other sports and spec racer champions. In D Sports, David Kaiser successfully defended his title, while in Shelby Can-Am, Mike Davies claimed his 6th national crown with a win over Brewery Air Augie Pabst III. In Sports 2000, David Duran won in a car designed by his brother. So those are the best of America's grassroots road racers. They toil all summer long with few sponsors, most with volunteer crews, all in search of a runoffs title. Race Day offers congratulations to all who tried and all who came home winners. They're the foundation of our sport. Now let's go two-wheel racing for you. We start in Del Mar, California. The AMA Flat Trackers wrapped up their season with a Scott Parker celebration. Kevin Atherton wished his season had ended 1 race earlier. He goes hard into the hay bales. He was okay, however, and partied with the champ at the Harley Party after Parker took his season's 10th win and the 70th of his career. Back east, the Formula USA Series wrapped up at Road Atlanta. In race number 1, Fritz Kling slips inside Michael Martin for the lead, but big problems for Gordon Miller. He crashes hard, but he was okay after bringing out the red flag. Kling held on for the win, and then in race number 2, Suzuki-mounted Aaron Yates storms past Kling for the lead. Kling gave chase on his Yamaha, but Yates would claim the win at his home track. Road Atlanta was the Formula USA finale, and that's where Chris Taylor used a 4th and a 3rd to clinch the 1995 Series crown, Rich Oliver and Fritz Kling behind him. 5-time Ware Enduro National Champion Michael Martin had announced he would retire after the weekend, and he refused to let the rain dampen his retirement party as he took the Ware 4-hour endurance win on a wet, misty day at the Georgia track. And one final thing, we here at Race Day have to congratulate our own RB on another birthday. Congratulations, Rick.
Oh, thank you, Ralph. You weren't supposed to mention that. Thanks for not saying what the number is. Race Day's Ralph Shaheen with us live. See if we invite him back again anytime soon. All during this season, we've been giving away trips to TNN's Winston Cup events with Rusty Wallace's Miller Genuine Draft team and our Win with the Driver sweepstakes. Tonight, our final winner of the year is Ed Ogan from Belmead, New Jersey. Ed and a companion get to go to Phoenix for the Duralube 500 next week. Ed's prize includes cash and hotel, TNN motorsports gear, maybe best of all, time with Rusty and the Miller Genuine Draft crew. And if Rusty wins next Sunday, Ed, instead of $1,000, gets $5,000. Congratulations to Ed and all of our Win with the Driver winners in 1995. And we are not yet done here on Race Day. Heavy competition for our Mopar Performer of the Week. We'll tell you who the winner is and how the decision was reached when we come back. Stay with us. Back with our Mopar Performer of the Week. Plenty of votes for Dan Carmichael, the 76-year-old SCCA National Formula Atlantic champion. Even a few for TNN's Glenn Jarrett, who correctly quoted William Shakespeare while interviewing Bill Davis at Rockingham today. But our nod to Ward Burton, who gained his first ever Winston Cup win, just his 7th time in Bill Davis's Pontiac. Congratulations to Ward Burton, our Mopar Performer of the Week. Some other winners we want to tell you about this week before we close. The USAC Sprints and Midgets in Winchester today, the Sammy Sessions Memorial. Doug Coletta won both ends of the doubleheader. First time that had been done since 1990 when a young fellow named Jeff Gordon did it. Bad crash at the end of the Sprint Car main with Jason McCord flipping 6 times. He's okay. Jimmy Horton, the former Winston Cup driver, wins the Eastern States 200 for the Dirt Modifieds at Orange County Speedway up in New York. We'll have highlights of that one next week. And a couple of champions to mention. If you weren't with us this morning, we talked live with Johnny Benson Jr., who clinched the NASCAR Busch Grand National crown at Rockingham yesterday. Michael Schumacher wrapped up his 2nd straight World Driving Championship, winning the Pacific Grand Prix today as well. Congratulations to all those drivers. By the way, we're on at different times next Sunday. We'll be moving our schedule 12:30 Eastern and 8:30 Eastern in the PM hours Eastern Time for Race Day next week. We're live at Phoenix, too. See you next week.
Race Day is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler Plymouth, Dodge, Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them.
Now you can go behind the scenes with Ernie Irvan in this exclusive video documenting his triumphant return to racing by ordering Miracles Happen, the Ernie Irvan comeback. Call 1-800-251-8888 to order now and receive your video after December 1st.
Promotional fee and consideration have been paid by Racing Radios. For all of your business and racing communications needs, as well as scanners and frequency lists, call on Racing Radios at 1-800-669-1522. By Master Van and Trucks, the official van of Richard Petty Racing, authorized converter of Chevy, Dodge, and Ford. For the nearest dealer, call 1-800-883-6101.